Julius Robert Oppenheimer was a scientific genius and was brilliant in a broad array of subjects including world languages and poetry. Despite this, he will always be remembered for his contribution towards the creation of the first atomic bomb. Oppenheimer was born on April 22, 1904 in New York City. His mother was a painter, and his father was a textile importer who obtained a mass amount of wealth. After graduating from an elite school in New York City, Oppenheimer went to Harvard in 1922, where he studied chemistry along with philosophy, Greek, and French literature. It wasn't until finishing his studies at Harvard he realized that his passion was for physics. He went to the University of Cambridge to expand on this newfound passion. He conducted research at the Cavendish Laboratory for Physics, and he primarily focused on theoretical physics. Later, his studies at the University of Göttingen and work as a research fellow at Harvard and Caltech got him noticed by the scientific world. Oppenheimer was so consumed by his work at the time that he failed to see the threats that arose in the world. In the 1930s, fascism was growing in Europe with the German Nazi Party at the center of it. It was Einstein that showed him how the Germans could potentially create a nuclear weapon and Hitler would not be afraid to use it. Because of this, in 1942, Oppenheimer agreed to direct the Manhattan Project, which was a top-secret U.S. Army project that was responsible for developing the atomic bomb. July 16, 1945, the first plutonium bomb was successfully detonated in New Mexico. A month later, on August 6th, Little Boy was detonated over Hiroshima, Japan. 3 days later, on August 9th, Fat Man destroyed the city of Nagasaki. Both bombs prompted the end of World War II. Despite the victory for the U.S. and the Western world, Oppenheimer only saw despair.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Oppenheimer saw it fit to fight against what he had created. In 1949, President Truman approached the Atomic Energy Commission, or AEC, about the production of a hydrogen bomb, which would be 1,000 times more powerful. This was highly opposed by Oppenheimer, who claimed it to be immoral and more unnecessary than the first bombs. Oppenheimer continued to fight against nuclear warfare with his position in AEC. He wished for more international control of nuclear weapons and wanted to avoid a nuclear arms race with the Soviets. A decade later, Oppenheimer began to move the blame off of himself and onto the government. He stated, "I carry no weight on my conscience. Our work has changed the condition in which men live, but the use made of these changes is the problem of the governments, not of the scientists." Unfortunately, the U.S. government saw Oppenheimer as a threat to national security, claiming him to have ties to the Soviet Union. Despite the U.S. Department of Energy concluding it proved impossible to link his lack of enthusiasm for the hydrogen bomb with suspicions of his disloyalty, he was still stripped of his security clearance in 1954 by the AEC. Oppenheimer went from America's top atomic physicist to an enemy of the state in a mere 1 decade.